all my fight fans? So, I got a question for you guys. There's a lot of drama within the organization, and we are barely 3 months in UFC. Excuse me. Well, the UFC, yes, has a lot of drama, but we're barely 3 months in the year 2026 with UFC and the Paramount deal. So, of course, we got this whole Conor Benn situation regarding the money. Dude gets $15 million. Is he a big superstar? Is he a Canelo Alvarez? Is he a Floyd Mayweather? Is he a Manny Pacquiao? No. Is he a well-known fighter? Not really. He's decent well-known. He has some decent fights and he has a decent following, but is he a big superstar? 100% no. Sean O'Malley has expressed some concern. You got Justin Gage, he expressed a lot of concern regarding pay. You got Sean Strickland expressing all kinds of concern. Now, you are hearing more from the big superstars regarding money. And this is something that we've talked about for multiple years, long term. To be honest with you, I was watching an old documentary regarding Tito Ortiz and when he faced Ken Shamrock for the very first time. And Tito Ortiz, I know he was ducking Chuck Liddell at that time, but he had mentioned that he felt like he wasn't getting paid enough to face Chuck Liddell. Now, of course, again, there was a big thing regarding him trying to duck Chuck Liddell, but he did mention a money situation then. But of course, we all know this was the earlier days of the UFC, and the money really wasn't there at that time. Not like it is today. Today, the UFC is getting well paid. The money is definitely there, and a lot of superstars who are big superstars who do deserve a little bit more of a pay bump should be getting this pay bump, and we're wondering if they are actually going to get that pay bump. If they're really going to make a little bit more money that they should be making, like a lot of these boxers. Now, if you remember, a lot of the UFC used to go toe-to-toe with boxing, saying like, oh, the UFC makes more money, the UFC makes more money. Well, I think they are all a lot more silent today than they were these past couple of years, because you saw firsthand that there's a guy named Conor Benn who was making way more money boxing than any of your UFC fellow fighters. If you notice, not one single guy that has mentioned anything about boxing has said anything about money pay regarding boxing and who gets paid more and who's better more and whatnot. So that's kind of funny how everyone's a little quiet now, because it's true. Boxing, you do get paid a little bit bigger. Now, in the earlier times, in the earlier stages of your career, if you're a fighter, yeah, UFC is going to pay you a bit more than boxing. You might be lucky to get a couple of grand if you're very, very lucky in your beginning stages, where the UFC will pay you a 10 and 10, a 12 and 12, or whatnot, regarding your early stages of your career, sure. But if you are a top 10 fighter, the most money you're ever going to make is in boxing, 100%. If you're top 5, you're definitely going to make more money in boxing. Like Sean O'Malley has never seen, maybe accumulation of multiple fights, he would see 15 million, but one fight, no, not happening. Not for a fighting paycheck. Now, it's a lot different now because of the whole pay-per-view model gone now too, so there's no longer, you're not getting paid for pay-per-view points either now. So that's gone too. So now I feel like the UFC, what they need to do is bring back sponsorships, because some of these guys, they're not Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley's a superstar. There's a lot of other fighters out there who are in top 10 that not a lot of people are too familiar with. Not a lot of people are to recognize that much. So they need to figure out a way to where they can get paid as well. Because again, Sean O'Malley can do sponsorships. Sean O'Malley can do maybe TV shows. Sean O'Malley is a star. Sean Strickland is a star. Justin Gaethje is a star. There's a lot of guys. These guys are in that like 5% percentile of the UFC that can make a lot of money outside the UFC. Where there's a lot of guys that are relying on the UFC to get paid. And, of course, you got to pay your coaches, you got to pay your management teams, you got to pay all kinds of other obligations that come around to your paycheck to making more money. But on the other hand, you got boxers who are getting paid way more money. You got to pay, of course, put it this way. You think anybody in the UFC is ever going to make Canelo money? Absolutely not. Not even Conor McGregor. When Conor McGregor made the most money he's ever made, it was when he fought Floyd Mayweather. And that was in boxing. Same thing with Francis Ngannou. The most money he's ever made was fighting Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Most money that he's ever made in the UFC. So yeah, the UFC is in trouble right now. The UFC, I feel like, is struggling a little bit with its talent only because of this whole signing with Conor Benn. And I always knew that was going to happen. I always knew as soon as Dana White got into boxing, he's not going to be able to pay his fighters in boxing like he does his UFC athletes. No way, without somebody getting offended. So there's going to be some situations, and there's going to be some renegotiating of contracts. There's going to be a lot of interesting things that's going to be happening, because we got Conor McGregor, who wants to return, but got paid a strong, so much money regarding his pay-per-views, but now the pay-per-views is gone, so he's not going to get paid that much regarding that now, because, or not even that much. He's not going to get paid nothing regarding pay-per-views because it's gone. So I want to know how that's going to transpire. I know he bleeds UFC. All these guys bleed for UFC, and they want to fight for the UFC, but they also want to get paid and take care of themselves and take care of their families and take care of their futures, because you also remember or hear about all these other athletes who need money for surgeries, need money for help. There's all this stuff that they go through as they get older. We all saw what happened to Ben Askren. Thank God he's okay and he's feeling okay. Then we heard things like Tim Sylvia, who's had surgery, who needed a GoFundMe. We all know Shane Carwin is dealing with certain issues. Like, there's so many fighters that deal with issues that didn't get paid as much as the earlier days, and a lot of these UFC fighters don't want to go through that. They don't, and of course they shouldn't. They really shouldn't. So what needs to happen is a little bit of a change. We all know this John Jones situation, the whole thing that happened with him not wanting to fight, but then again, that really falls on him, because he said no to certain fighters. He said no to Tom Aspinall for $30 million. He was going to get paid. So John Jones is a little bit of a bad example. It is an example we use right now at the moment, because he did ask for $15 million, if I'm correct, against Alex Pereira at the White House. The UFC just wasn't going to allow it to happen. So you can't really say or use him, because again, he was going to get paid, but he's not getting paid now. And like everyone else who's asking for money, a little bit different situation, because there's very few fighters out there that actually say no to $30 million. I don't think any fighter would have been offered $30 million. So yeah, there's all these other little obstacles or little things that are being thrown at fighters. I want to say obstacles, but more of there's a lot of back and forth going on, I guess you could say, regarding the UFC and fighter pay, and regarding the fighters who are asking for more money. Like Justin Gaethje had mentioned about how he had all these bonuses and it didn't even go up to $1 million. And of course, Justin Gaethje is a superstar, and he's given some great fights, and they should give him more money for sure. He's put some blood, sweat, and tears into this octagon cage, and given us a lot of exciting fights. Like, if we saw more fights like that Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, no offense to those guys, the UFC would not be where it's at today. It is where it's at today because of guys like Justin Gaethje, because of guys like Dustin Poirier, because of guys even like John Jones. I can even say John Jones. There's guys out there like Conor McGregor that giving us crazy exciting fights. Now, I'm not saying that jiu-jitsu and wrestling is all like it's gonna destroy the MMA world. No, there's some matches out there that are really exciting, really fun. Like, hell, I love that Peter Yan Merab, or Merab and Umar Nurmagomedov, where you saw that is mixed martial arts. To me, those fights is mixed martial arts. When you see guy pretty much like a Rob Font and Raul Rojas Jr., that's not mixed martial arts. That's just holding down. That's just maybe a little ground and pound, and getting the victory. That to me is not MMA. What I just mentioned, the other fights, Yan, Merab, Umar, that's mixed martial arts. Those are excitements with wrestling, with grappling, with jiu-jitsu, and that's more what we need. And that's what gets the UFC made it to where it's a well-oiled machine. So now I have to wonder, is Paramount going to be a little upset with the UFC? Because you got to remember, when Paramount got into this, they saw what they were like on Fox. They saw what they were like on ESPN. They probably even saw what they were like on Spike TV. Of course, the app and all that stuff wasn't around at that time, but I'm sure the company men of Paramount were probably fans of the UFC and saw this like, oh man, this is a great business to be a part of. But now the fights that we are getting, and a lot of these fighters are probably not too too big on wanting to fight as hard, because again, there's is money the biggest motivation that they have? It's probably not one reason why we're not getting a lot of these big fights. Who knows? But yeah, maybe Paramount is going to be looking at this like, I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm really excited and liking this. This is 7 years of we got to deal with this. In 3 months, we got some fights where Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopez, a fight that did not need to happen. The Justin Gaethje, Paddy Pimblett, that fight did not need to happen, but it turned out great. The Max Holloway, Charles Oliveira, was I excited for it? Yes, because I felt like it was going to be very exciting. It was a BMF, but it turned out to be quite a bit of a dud. So, yeah, we are really, really, I believe the UFC is struggling. They're struggling with probably viewership. That is a big one. They're struggling with viewership. They're struggling with people wanting to watch it because they're not too excited about the cards. They're struggling with fighter pay, because a lot of these fighters are looking at some of the boxing organizations and they're hearing like, oh man, these guys are making more money than us, and here we are, we're risking ourselves and putting ourselves on the line to where we're not getting paid as much. So yeah, a lot of people are like, the UFC is like going crazy right now. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen the drama pop off the way it's been popping off. The fans are not very happy. The fighters are not very happy. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be happening over the next few months, or maybe even a few years, where the UFC is going to have to start fixing things up. They are going to have to start giving us bigger and better fights, because I'm sure Paramount eventually is going to be a little annoyed. Like, hey, our viewership is kind of going down a little bit. Like, we used to see Cain Velasquez, Brock Lesnar, John Jones, DC, Conor McGregor, Nate Diaz, and all these other great big fights that we used to see. Now, no, those fighters ain't really around anymore, but some of the fights that we could get together could be happening. We could possibly still get John Jones and all these other good fights, Alex Pereira and all these other fights. Conor McGregor still wants to come back. So yeah, I'm sure there's that. And then of course, fighter pay. A lot of fighters may not want to re-sign with the UFC, which are the big stars like a Sean O'Malley, maybe even a Sean Strickland, where they want to go to places like Netflix to where they could get these one-off fights where are, I want to say celebrity fights, but these like these influencer fights with like Jake Paul and such, where they could be making more money and such. And that's what these guys want to do. They want to make more money, and it's harder because in boxing, no disrespect to boxing or MMA, but boxing is a lot more easier for these guys. You always hear about some of these fighters that are talking about like, oh, well, I want to box because I don't have to wrestle, I don't have to kick, I don't have to use my knees, I don't have to use my elbows, I don't have to be on the ground with jiu-jitsu. I just got to work on my hands, and it's a lot more easier and easier on the body, I should say. So yeah, I feel like a lot of these superstars who are complaining about money are going to start doing that. So yeah, the UFC's in crazy, crazy trouble right now. There's a lot going on. I'm sure it's going to get fixed soon, and I'm sure that these guys are going to get it sorted out, because it's the UFC. They are a billion-dollar organization, definitely $7 billion organization, and I'm sure they're going to pay their fighters, and I'm sure we're going to get the fights we're going to get. But until then, if we do not, guys, I would like to know what you think is going to happen to the UFC. Like, subscribe, hit that notification button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.